So for years, I struggled hitting my 3-wood from the ground, but now I can set up and know that I can put a good solid swing on it, get a great strike, and just guarantee that I hit the ball a good distance and nice and accurately. Now, I'd love to say every single shot was like that. They're not always quite that good, but if I'd have known what I'm going to talk about in this video years and years ago with 3-wood off the ground, it would have saved me years of heartache. So like a lot of golfers, I'd very often get my tee shot away, particularly when I was a junior, when I needed as much distance as I could off the ground. And I'd set up, as we're told, you know, ball forward. And I'd get up there and I'd try and sweep the ball away. And very often I'd just hit it straight into the ground. And it just, I mean, I'm not even going to show you the shot. It was awful. So I'd top it a lot. Occasionally I'd fat it. And very, very occasionally, I'll see if I can do it now, I'd actually get a good shot. But it kind of just felt a little low off the face. And there's a number there that is a glaring issue. So like I said, even though that was a decent result, it kind of feels incredibly close to being a bad one. And I'm just going to pop the numbers back up there, and we can see there that even though the distance was decent, and it did leak a little bit to the right, we can see the low point of the golf swing was 1.1 inches behind the golf ball. So the club was actually traveling up 0.2 degrees. Now, anytime the golf ball is on the floor, if that club head's traveling up, and I kind of would have got away with it there, it means that I'm going to just miss the ground, and dependent on how much up I'm traveling, I'm going to catch low on the face and certainly catch a little higher up the ball, or I'm going to catch the ground first. So my first question with golfers, any shot on the ground, is when you make a golf swing, should the club touch the ground at all during the swing? And very often the answer is no, which is incorrect. We want the club to touch the ground. But then I talk about, okay, so if we want the club to hit the ground at the bottom of the swing, do we want to make contact with the ball first or the ground first? And I think this is definitely where golfers get a little bit confused. So let's just clarify that. We're always looking to strike golf ball and then ground. So what we would need is the lowest part of our golf swing to be after the golf ball. So we would collect ball and then ground. But what we see with a lot of golfers is that low point's behind because they're trying to help it in the air. And that's where they really struggle with that strike. So not to kind of debunk a lot of myths out there about 3-wood, but I agree we don't want the club traveling excessively down so there's no loft on it. But if you think about not hitting up and hitting down, but anytime that low point is ahead of the golf ball, the club is traveling down to get to that low point. If it was traveling up, the low point would be behind. So we always want the low point ahead. Now I think the challenge for a lot of golfers is straight away the way they set up is they get that ball well forward, they almost get that little bit of spine tilt away like the seaward driver, but everything about that is low point behind, and that one, a little thinny one straight into the screen. So what I'm going to say is initially, if you're working through this video with me, I want you to, even though it's 3-wood, I want you to get that ball very, very central in your stance, almost where you would have the short iron, 7, 8, 9 wedge. And I want you to really focus at address on not tilting away from the ball, but even to have a little bit more pressure on that front foot. Now, if I set up there, just level with the ball, and make some swings just like I would with an iron, we can see straight away I'm going to start touching the ground this side of the golf ball. I think that's a lovely bit of feedback that straight away you've got a chance of hitting golf ball first. So this can be quite extreme for somebody. So what I would say when you hit this, there's a good chance with a good strike this is going to be very, very low. So we're going to get the ball in the centre. Get that little bit more pressure onto that front foot and then swing it like a short iron. Now, launching at just over 3 degrees, we can see my low point was 4.7 inches ahead, angle of attack 5 degrees down, and obviously carry only at 180 and total at 227. But if you're somebody that tops it and thins it, even that will feel like a good shot. So definitely not sweeping the ball away there, definitely got the club travelling down quite a big amount at the golf ball and de-lofting the golf club. Now, obviously with 15 degrees of loft, we don't want to be that excessive. But for some of you golfers out there, even with the ball in the middle, you're only going to be getting your low point very slightly ahead of the golf ball. So that's going to mean that you present more loft. Now, if you are one of those golfers, brilliant. The video is pretty much done for you. So you can keep the ball in the center, pressure on that left side, and treat it like an iron. And you will hit 3-wood better than ever. But for some of you out there, you'll be a little bit like me there, and that low point there was too far ahead. So all I would do is, rather than the ball in the middle now, I'm going to move that ball, let's say a couple of inches further forward, set up exactly the same. And if I make this swing now, low point should still be ahead, but not as much. So the club is still traveling down. Again, not as much. And I should present a little bit more loft to the ball. So still that little bit of pressure on that left foot. Again, felt a great strike, and we can see there, low point now 2.3 inches ahead. Club's travelled down 2.8 degrees. Launching at just under 9 degrees for me. Carry at 239, total at 262. And like I said at the start of the video, if I'd have had this understanding, certainly growing up, 3-wood off the ground would have been a club I'd have really looked forward to using. And so many golfers talk about the scoring clubs in their bag being the wedges, but I do think for those sort of mid to higher handicappers, 3-wood, 5-wood are your scoring clubs. Once you've got that tee shot away, you need something from the ground that's going to maximise your distance for that shot. And if you can't get going with the 3-wood and the 5-wood, it just makes the whole play incredibly long. So let's say, for example, there, I still needed that to be a little bit higher. I mean, I wouldn't, I think that's my perfect one. So I would then just move that ball position even slightly further forward for me. Again, pressure on that left side. So I'm not sitting back straight away setting up for a bad strike. So I'm going to get there, and another good swing. I should see my low point ahead and maybe just a little bit more loft. So definitely a little bit out of the toe with the strike. So my low point was directly under the golf ball. So the club's travelled down 0.6 degrees, even more shallow. And even with a missed strike there, 235 carry and 253 total. So I think that ability to get that low point ahead of the golf ball is a skill that golfers just, first of all, aren't aware of, and second of all, very, very rarely work on. So you could see for me there, I can move my ball position around a little bit to change how I deliver the club, to change my shot, but because I'm very consistent, comment below, or fairly consistent with getting that low point in a consistent place. But if you are a golfer who struggles getting the ball in the air, chances are you need that ball position a little further back. I know that sounds strange, but as soon as you start striking it up the face, there's a little bit more loft there. But it's like a light bulb moment for most golfers of that ability to set up, pressure on that left side. And if they can get that low point slightly ahead of the golf ball, the club moving down a little bit, we start getting a good strike, getting great distance, and maybe, just maybe, 3-wood from the ground might become one of your new favourite clubs in the bag.